So I put the title user management. In this slide, we are going to learn how to deal with the user, and when you make the website, there will be some management things for the users. So we will see the example, how can we deal with the user management. So at first, you will learn about the system architecture. So what is system architecture? And then you are going to learn what is CRUD, C-R-U-D. And yeah, we are going to review the system architecture. You will learn the system architecture and then CRUD. So what is CRUD? We will look at the things later. So there will be 4 things. The first is user registration, user detail list, user update, and user delete. The system architecture. We call it system architecture. It is the conceptual model that defines the structure, behavior, and more views of a system. So the system architecture diagram will be used to show the relationship between different components. So let's say in this diagram, I want to show the relationship between notebook, laptop, and there might be some factory or company, or maybe it is related to a computer, maybe server, and there might be some other main computer. Maybe this is the big computing rooms, and so on. So we can see this is one example of system architecture. So usually they are created for systems which include hardware and software. And these are represented in the diagram to show the interaction between them. It means I can see here there is a relation between this laptop into, maybe we call it, this is the flux capacitor, and then we want to use this controller which is locked. And let's say if we want to connect to these services, then we need to use this jump box and etc. So we can see the flow, we can see the, maybe this is the input, and this is the computer that want to connect from this laptop, and so on. Now, the system architecture, it can also be created for web applications. So we are making a web, and we can also make it for web. In the web programming, in this case, we are using Django. It consists of M, V, T concepts. Okay, so we will take a look what is this MPT. So this is one of the system architecture. Let's say I have the user, and the user can connect to the system through the web browser, for example, using Mozilla, let's say using the Microsoft Edge, let's say using the Google Chrome. This is another kind of web browser. This is another web browser. And then the teacher will connect to this web browser. And there's another component, we call it the learning management subsystem. So this web browser will connect to this component for the learning management system. And there might be some component management unit. And these things will connect to another component before they connect to the database. So there's a kind of model agent to connect to the database. There's another kind of functions to connect to the database, and the database will also give the data to this system and so on. So it represents the flow from the database into the user. So this is one example about the architecture that we want to learn today. So let's suppose I have the browser. So the browser that I want to use, it can be anything. It can be Chrome, Mozilla, Microsoft Edge. It can be maybe Opera. Okay. And this browser, when you connect to this browser, you can see there are some HTML files. So this HTML file is list members. So this is another HTML file, which is member form. This is another HTML file, which is member delete confirm.html. So we are going to create those things. And then those HTML file will connect to the urls.py. So you already know what is the urls.py. In this urls.py, we have 4 links or 4 paths. So first path is going to the member deletion, the other is going to the member update, the other is going to the insertion, and the other is going to the member details. And we are going to create 4 functions in the views.py. The function is delete member, update member, create member, and list members. Okay. And those things will connect to the database, which is we are going to use the SQL line. So we call this is MVP. So M means the model. We call it model. This is the model for the data, or this is the database. We call it view. So this is the view, which is related to the function and how to connect this function into the URLs. And template. So we learn about the Django template. So we call template because it is related with the user. It is related how we show it to the users. So we call it, this is the Django template. So this simple architecture, model, view, template, is common when we use Django. So last week we learned how to make the project, starting the project, and then until we do the code. Okay. So let me just repeat one more time. We need to start the project. So the new project creation, and then we need to set up the settings. So the settings, I think for now, we don't need to set up many things. But in some cases, you need to do some project setting. Maybe if you work in a company, you need to set up the host. Maybe you need to set up the time zone. You need to set up the language. You need to set up the directory and etc. And then we're going to use some things like migrate, create super user, and then we are going to start the app. And then again, we need to register the app. So I mentioned this is as the framework coding. So before you start with the code that we used before, so if you still remember last time, we always create 3 things. You still remember? We create view, and then we create the URLs, and then we create the HTML. Okay. So at that time, we create this one without any database. We create this one without any data. Now, before you create this one, this tree actually belongs to the last one, the last tree section. So before you do this one, you need to create the project. So you need to set up the administrator. You need to set up the user. You need to set up the application name. After you do this framework coding, you need to set up the model. So the model means the database. So in the model or in the database, you need to set up models, which is the model or the table definition. And then we need to set up the admin who will manage this one. And then you need to make the migration. So to make migration means you want to set up so the Django can be published online. And migrate means every changes on your Python file will also take the effect to the HTML file. So we will do these things, okay, from the beginning until the end. Framework coding. So at first, you need to create a new project. Okay, so when you do the exam, please do this one. You need to start a new project. And when you start a new project, I think you already know, that you need to choose Django, and then you need to make the name of your project. And then in my case, I just select the existing. It means I use the existing Python file in this computer, and then leave everything at the default. So this is the template language is Django, and then the template folder is templates, and the project name is, let's say, user project, and this one, click this one. So when you click this one, you can run the admin. Okay, okay, let's see. Actually, I try with my PyCharm here. There's something wrong. Let's see one more time. So you can make a new project, and then you select the Django, and then let's say I create the user project. So I'm using the custom environment, select the existing, I use Python and everything. So the template language is Django, the template folder is templates, the application name later we will create it, and then the project name is user project, and I enable this Django admin. Okay. So if you set up with this one, if you already click, if you already prepare, then you can create your new project. So I think it needs some time to make the project available. So if you see, the new project will include those files. Okay? So if the project is correct, you will see that it consists of manage.py, and then there is a constructor init.py, asgi.py, settings.py, urls.py, and wsgi.py. So if everything is okay, then you can continue to the next one. So last week, we already did this one. Okay? In order to set up the maybe IP address or you want to set up your own server. So you can specify in the allow host. In the settings.py, we can see allowed host. Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to set up this one or not. Basically, if nothing here, then it will follow the local host. If you want to specify with this one, that's also fine. So it means every time you start with your project, it will be always in the localhost. Let's see this one. What happened? Okay, let me type. So this is localhost and the other host is 127.0.0.1. So it is the same. Okay, localhost and 127.0.0.1 is the same. So you can specify like this, or if you have any specific IP address, yeah, you can type your IP address. Okay. Now let me just skip the other IP address. Let me just use this localhost. The other thing that you need to know is about the database. For this database, I will use the SQLite. So the basic one, so we call this is the default. In the default, we will use the SQLite 3. Django, when you install Django, it already includes this database. So by the default, the configuration use SQLite. If you wish to use another database, you can install the appropriate database. So yeah, you need to change what is the engine name and what is the name of your database. Let's say if you want to use MySQL, then yeah, in that case, you need to define the MySQL, and then you need to find what is the engine for MySQL. So you can change the following keys in the database. You can change the engine, you can change the name, and you can match to your database connection settings, because every database will have different connection setting. And then the language setting. Maybe you have difficulties with English. The basic language in Django is English, US, but you can change to Korean, or if you want to use the Chinese, there are also some ways to choose the Chinese, which is the simplified Chinese or the traditional Chinese. So by the default, the configuration is using English. So let's say this one, if you go to the setting, so the below part is this one, and US. Okay. So this is the English, US. If you want to use the Korean, so you can change to KOKR. And the time zone. Okay, so the time zone, you can also check this time zone, whether you want to use the time zone in the UTC, Universal Time Coordinate, or you want to use the time zone in Asia or Seoul. Okay. Or you want to use the time zone or not. So you can also specify. In this case, I will use the time zone for the default. If you want to change with only the Asia or Seoul, you can change this one to false. The other thing that you need to check is the generalization. So this is just for the internationalization. The use I18N, and it is true, so it is using the internationalization. But if you use the L10N, so it is the localization. This localization depends on your computer. For example, now I'm in Korea, so I'm using Korean. Then it depends on the local computer, which is Korea. If I'm now in the Germany and I use the computer with the German language, then it will follow everything with the local German. But if I just choose the internationalization, then everything will be just in the internationalization. Because some countries may have maybe different policy or privacy in order to show the website in public. Okay, now after you have this, at the first time, you need to open the terminal. So I will teach you how to open the terminal. In the below part of your Django, you can see some icon here. There are icons on the left below. So those icons, if you look at the first, the first is Python console. If you look at this one, Python console, then you can write your Python code in the console. The other is Python packages. So the Python packages means you can see what are the packages that you want to include in your Django. Okay. The other thing is the services. So the services, it is the web service. You can add the services, but I will not explain this one. And the other is the terminal. So you can click the terminal, and once you click the terminal, you can see this is the terminal, or sometimes we call it as the command prompt. Yang prompted. So we can execute the command prompt from this Django. Now, I'm in the project, and the name of the project is Big Project in this case. If you are making your project in this folder, then you will see this one. Then you know that your file is in this folder. So let's see if I copy this one, and then if I open this, then I can see this is where I created my project. So when you do your exam, you can see this is your project, and you need to submit this file. If you look at this big project, then yeah, this is the file. Oh, so maybe this is the project, the whole project. Okay, this is the inside project. So you need to do this one in order to set up the zip file. Okay, you can do the upchuck. Okay, please prepare in your computer about the upchuck, so you can submit this file into the eClass. Okay. Now let's get back to this one. At the first time, before we do the modeling, before we do with everything, now let's set up the admin. We want to use the administrator. Then we need to execute the migrate. You can see here Python manage.py migrate. You can copy and paste those things, or you can type in Python manage.py migrate. So Python means I want to execute the python.exe. Manage.py is the file list. Yeah, manage.py and migrate. So I want to run later this project everything from the database and from all those things, I want to migrate it into the web. So you can see this is the manage.py. So once you have this, let's press enter. Now you can see that this will perform those operations. So admin, authorization, content types, sessions, it will be migrated, and this will be the migration for all the basic libraries in Django. So the admin, the authorization session, okay, it will be migrated. Now we can use all those things for our web. But I will not teach all those things because of the time. Now, after you have this one, okay, so you finish with the migrate. So the migrate contain three things. First, you need to open the terminal and then type the python manage.py, and then you can see the result like this one. Okay, so you can see the result like what we saw. And then now let's create a user. Okay. When you want to run an administrator, we need to make a user. So to do the administration process, we need to create a user. The way to create the user is using the Python manage.py create super user. Okay, let me just copy and paste. Copy and paste this one, and then so the question at the first time is the username. So what is the username that you want to use? In this case, IME is the username in this computer. Okay. So if you put blank, blank means if you don't put anything here. If nothing here, then the name will be the same with the computer name, which is IME. But yeah, you can decide by yourself. For example, let me use user. Okay, let me just use user. I don't want to use IME. So I will type user. Okay. And then they will ask you the email address, because if you forget the password, they will send it to you, the password again. For now, I think we don't need this one. So just let's say, yeah, because it is required. So you need to write email. You need to write an email address. This is just a fake email address. Okay? So I will just use abc@abc.com, because an email address should contain this one, at or grouping. Okay. So let me just use this one, and then they will ask you password. For now, let's just assume that, let's make the easy one. Okay. Do not make too complicated. So I already designed a password for you. So later on, if we need to connect to the admin, yeah, I can help you easily by using this password. So just use this password of IME203, and then password again have IME203. So actually the password can be changed. Okay, you can type any password, but it is for the easy reminder, since there is a requirement for creating a strong password. So let me just write this one, have IME203, and then you need to type the password again, have IME203. Okay, if everything is okay, then you can see that the super user created successfully. Okay. Now, after you migrate, okay, so after you do the migration, after you create a super user, let's create a new app. New app means this application will be what we are going to create about the user. So let's create a new app. We call it, the app is user management, user MGMT. So the comment here, you need to write the Python manage.py start app. Start app means we want to make a new application, and the application name is user MGMT. Okay, so MGMT means management. So let's see this one. So let me just copy and paste into this. Let me clear it. Okay. So you can make the new application, which is user management. And after you have this one, now let's look at this folder. You can see here, there is a new folder. Okay. The folder name is user MGMT. And then you can open it, and you will see that this is a new application. So this new application already create the Python files for you: admin.py, apps.py, models.py, test.py, and fuse.py. So this is the built-in application whenever you create an application. So after you have this one, you need to set up how the Django will connect to the Python file. So you need to go to the settings and then add a new install apps. Okay. So you can go to the settings. So this is the setting, and then you need to go to the install apps. Okay, you can see here, this is the install apps. In this install apps, actually, you can see the admin, authorization, content types, session, messages, static files. Now you have a new app. So we need to connect it to this setting by calling the app name. So the app name is user MGMT. Okay. So you need to put the app name is user MGMT, and we need to create a new name which is from the apps. So you can see here we have the apps admin test fuse.model. So it is from this one, admin apps models test view. So I'm going to connect to the apps, and the name of the apps is user MGMT config. Config means the configuration. So this is the automatically built function by Django. So whenever you create a new app, so you need to design with this one, user MGMT apps and user MGMT config. So this is the app name. Okay, I mentioned this one. This is the name. And then they will add config. So if your app name is book management, then it will follow the word config. Okay. Let's say you want to make an application about inventory, for example. So the name will be inventory config. something like this. Okay. Or if you have another kind of application, for example, warehouse. So the name of your application is warehouse. So you can look at the name as config, something like this. Okay. So this is the default from Django. So when you finish with this one, now everything set up in the settings. Next, we need to create the database. For the database, as I mentioned to you, we have M, which is for the model. It will be connected to the template via view. So model, M, it stands for model. It is the data access layer. So this layer contains anything and everything about the data. How to access it, how to validate it, which behavior it has, and the relationship between the data. The second one is template. T. T is template. It is the presentation layer. So this layer contains presentation related decisions. How something should be displayed on a web page or other type of document. View. View is the business logic layer. So everything based on the logic or function, it will be in this case. So this layer contains the logic that access the model and defers the appropriate templates. You can think of it as the bridge between model and templates. So you have the data. Before you show it into the web, before you show it into the HTML, you need to make a bridge. So that's why we need the view.py and also we need the urls.py before we show the data into the HTML. Okay. Then let me stop here. Let's have a break. I will continue after the break.